This you were here last time. I will be about 6 months now or
Yeah,
more.
6 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, see, you have been doing a lot of work in the source house. Okay. So
Thank you.
see, tell my audience the new changes you guys have been implementing in that organization and the extent of the
Yeah.
organization, because I know you have expanded
Yeah.
out of Nigeria, Ghana, and to other African countries.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so very much for that. So I think about Salt House, it's so good to be here, and reflecting on it, it's good to know that since the last time I was in this room, we we've made tremendous progress. And it's not just now reflecting, I'm like, wait a minute, we've actually done some things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just for the first time listeners, so Salt House is like I said, we're an organization committed to making inclusion work for
Yeah.
individuals, corporate organizations, and the government. We believe that inclusion is the panacea for development in Africa.
Okay.
And the more we are able to build inclusive systems, we will be able to accomplish sustainable development. So we sort of was founded in 2017, but we eventually got incorporated in 2018. So we are just over like about 5 years
5 years.
and 6 months ish. And it's been a remarkable journey looking thus far. And this year we had actually had like two major agendas this year. The very first agenda that we had was to basically, so thus far we've been a non-governmental organization working closely with rural communities that have been marginalized. But we've come to learn through the research that we've done that it's really important for us to also work with other stakeholders like businesses. So think of it as it's a two-way street. One, we are either going to businesses and asking them to give us money, to conduct an intervention project as part of their CSR, right? To include you give people food, clothes, and all of those things, and you think you've done something good. Or that's one. Or you can actually go to businesses and help businesses understand the reason why they need to create more inclusive products and services, why they need to create more inclusive recruitment policies, for example.
Yeah.
And how that would actually lead to like a more sustaining, development for not just for the organization, but
the
for us,
whole society. Yeah.
for the whole society. And so one of the things that we decided to do this year was to launch what we call Salt House Business, which is Salt House Business is the arm of the organization that works with corporate organizations, both in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria. But we focus on Africa particularly. What we help these organizations do, we have three major goals. When we first of all, we try to help them understand the opportunities that exist by promoting inclusion across their policies, practices, and the delivery of their products and services. So, for example, you think about Nike, for example. I'm sure about a decade ago, Nike never made, hijabs for Muslim sport ladies. By simply creating that, identifying the role of inclusion in helping them expand the market. They've been able to create new products and services that include more people, respect our differences in terms of disabilities, cultural differences, and that way they're able to expand, their profit margin, tremendously, which is great. So that's one thing that we are trying to help African businesses do. The second thing that we are helping them do is to actually design what we call an inclusive workspace. So usually I have conversations with people and they say, oh, inclusion is a thing for is a white man's thing. In Africa, do we need inclusion? It's not like, and I'm like, well, that's what you think, because usually when we talk about inclusion, we always restrict it to racial differences.
Yes.
But that is not what inclusion just entails.
Exactly.
It scopes way beyond that. And looking at a continent like Africa, I always tell people, in Africa, we've got the population almost similar to that of China. And in China, we've got just 54 ethnic groups.
Yeah.
In Africa, we've got over 3,000.
Over 3,000.
We've got over 500. And so you notice that political ideologies and development tends to grow along ethnic lines, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You go tribal lines. Yes.
Tribal lines, exactly.
Yes.
Does that make sense? So as a result of that, what you now find that is, if we don't build systems put systems in place that actually recognize our differences, and in such a way that we're able to work together and find what I would call common interests, that's devoid of our religious differences, ethnic, and all of that, we may not be able to advance as a people.
Agreed.
I always consider it to everyone being in a boat, and some are paddling to move forward, others are paddling to move backwards. It's not that the boat will not move. The only thing is that the boat will capsize. That's the truth. Then, that's exactly physics, right? So at the end of the day, what we are trying to do with organizations is trying to help them build a more inclusive workspace where persons with disabilities, persons with different differences. I would just say that in Nigeria, everyone is a victim of discrimination, one way or the other.
Yes.
From the person that is called Omona in the office, or the person that is, that simply because of the fact that she's got a child with an additional needs, she's considered to be lazy, in the office. Everyone's a victim. And so not until we're able to build, these inclusive workspaces, will we be able to maximize the potential that every employee has to offer and everyone in society has to offer as well. So that's the second thing that we try to do with the Salt House Business Project. And then finally, which is really, really important, it's behavioral change. So we conduct loads of trainings across different levels of the organization, from the board to the executive staff, and then to the operation teams, to help them understand what inclusion basically means and how it actually applies to them. So at the top, how does it apply to the decision making, the policies, the strategies? At the bottom, how do you take note of that when you're recruiting someone? How do you take note of that when you're going out there to sell your products and services? Particularly with marketers, for example, you have conversation with some marketers and you find out that when you ask them, oh, this product that you have is amazing, but how are you able to market this product in such a way that someone who's got an auditory disability is able to find interest in it? And they like, we don't really like, why should we be bothered about? I say that now that's the problem. Now you're creating a product that could serve a particular customer segment, but simply because of their disabilities, in quotes, you are unconsciously sidelining them, and that way you are crippling. So it's all about the behavioral changes. Because of our work, we interviewed human resource managers. And in the survey, we found out, like, oh, if you had the opportunity to recruit for a role and you had someone who has got a physical disability and another person who equally qualified, as not got a physical disability, what would you recruit? And they all said, I'll recruit the person without a physical disability.
I know that.
Exactly. And you would ask why. I'm like, what does it matter? We just want to get the job done, right? And I'm like, but what if the other person who's got a physical disability has got more, longer attention span, more skilled in specialization and all of that? Like, eventually we're able to find out that it's not that human resource personnel are evil, in quote, or discrimination, in quote. It's called unconscious bias. And by unconscious bias, it's often fueled by ignorance, the lack of understanding of how to manage these situations. So we know that if persons with disabilities or persons with additional needs would require some form of care and assistance at work to be able to function effectively. Now, most of our organizations, businesses are not designed to do that. That's the truth.
Cater for them, yes. That's
cater for them. You, for example, take it as simple as a bank that everybody goes. Even if you say a bank is where both the rich and the poor they meet. If you go to the bank, how often do we have disability toilets or restrooms in the bank?
Even avenue to enter the bank if you are
to enter the bank. So they don't have all of these allowances, and then the question that you start to ask is, how does this translate into your revenue? How does this translate into the impression you give to society? And so those are actually the three major things that we try to accomplish with Salt House Business.